everyone. Welcome to Localization today. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. Of course, I know that many of you are slowly tuning in. Some of you are going to be on LinkedIn, some of you are going to be on YouTube, some of you are going to watch the recording later, and that is all right. We welcome everyone from everywhere around the world. As always, we'd love to know where you are joining us from. So in the comments, feel free to introduce yourself. Say something like, hey, my name is Eddie Arrieta. I'm the CEO of Multilingual Magazine, and I'm joining from the wonderful Cincelejo in Colombia, in South America. Or maybe you are in London, or maybe you're in Chicago, or Cartagena, or any other city around the world. So remember, whatever you're joining us from, LinkedIn comments, YouTube comments, where are you joining us from? What is your role? What do you do? Where do you do what you do? Today, Localization today. Remember that this is a space where we bring together leaders from across the language and localization industry to discuss technologies, to discuss strategies and ideas shaping multilingual communication around the world. Today's conversation goes into one of the most important questions emerging from the rapid adoption of AI in localization. The question is, can organizations actually trust AI-generated translations at scale? Not whether AI can translate, not whether it can reduce costs, not whether it can increase speed. Those questions have largely already been answered. The challenge now is something deeper, understanding when AI output is accurate, when it requires human intervention, how quality can be measured consistently, and how organizations can create systems that stakeholders trust. Now, very important, pay attention to this. Today's discussion is supported by Smartling, whose platform helps organizations manage multilingual content across hundreds of languages and markets. We appreciate their support in making conversations like this possible. So, Smartling, thank you. There's a QR code there. You know what to do. Maybe you don't know what to do. So open your camera, scan the QR code, click on it. Oh, someone is scanning the code. I like that. Thank you so much. Don't forget, tell us where you are tuning in from. Where are you tuning in from? And of course, I'm doing this live also on my Instagram, and I'm using a filter that just shows my face. So very strange, but please find us, LinkedIn, YouTube, share it with the people that are not here today. We have, of course, a couple of things we'd like to ask you. We ask you to tell us where you are tuning in from. We ask you to tell us what your role is. What did you do at your companies? Tell us your position on this conversation. Can we trust AI translation at scale? If you trust it, why do you trust it? What are you using that helps you trust it? And then we have wonderful panelists to get this conversation going. So let me introduce them. I'm joined today by three people approaching this challenge from very different perspectives: technology, enterprise implementation, and industry analysis. First of all, Andrew Sachs, who is the Vice President of Product at Smartling. His work focuses on building the technologies and workflows that help enterprise manage translation quality, automation, and multilingual content at scale. Second, Marcin Payak, Engineering Manager and former staff engineer at Miro. He leads experience systems across accessibility, design systems, and localization, and recently spearheaded Miro's AI-first translation pipeline, reducing translation turnaround times from days to seconds. Welcome, Marcin. And Konstantin Dranch, the founder of Custom MT and one of the localizations industry's most recognized analysts and observers. Through his research, writing, and speaking, Konstantin has spent years tracking the evolution of machine translation, language technology, and AI-driven localization. Welcome, Konstantin. Let's take a minute, of course, to welcome everyone onto the stage and say hello to those that have already sent any messages on social media. Martin, Andrew, Constantine, hello.
Hello, Eddie.
We already have so many messages from people. Thank you, Mila, for sharing those. Hello from Vietnam. My gosh. We have Vietnam. Greetings from Ventura, California. I'm an education translator and interpreter. Thank you. We also have Sunnyvale, California. Localization manager, Gilroy, California. We have Slovenia, Sao Paulo, the Netherlands, Seville, Spain, Oskaloosa, Iowa. Oskaloosa, how do you pronounce that? Sorry if I'm butchering. Seattle, USA, Ukraine, Boston, Massachusetts. Global integration specialist at Musco Sports Lightning. Wonderful. And that is our cue. That's our cue. That's our cue. We need to get going. Thank you so much for our cue. Thank you, everyone. Remember, if you're just tuning in, tell us where you are in the world and what do you do now. For everyone, of course, 4 years the conversation around AI translation focused on whether the technology was good enough. Today it feels like the conversation has shifted towards trust. So for all of our panelists, we're going to break the ice. Can you quickly introduce yourselves, perhaps mention something we might not know about you, and of course, more importantly, what is your position on this conversation? Can we trust AI? And to make it easy for everyone, let's do Constantine, let's do Marcin, and we'll do Andrew. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today.
Thank you, Eddie. Do you want us to do a quick one or a short one?
Go for it. Follow your heart. I know you're already disappointed in me, and I haven't even given you I haven't even given you your 100 years of solitude in Spanish, which I promised almost a year ago.
I am so disappointed, Eddie.
I know there's so many reasons. So please.
All right, I'll open today's voice band.
Go for it, my friend.
Right. Quick opening statement. Translation quality and trust are a very intertwined problem. And as an industry, we've been trying to solve it for 30 years with a small degree of success. There's been more than 100 different metrics made to measure professionally and define what is translation quality, because if you take two people and show them the same translation, most of the time they wouldn't agree. And over the 30 years that people have been working, the best they could produce was the multidimensional quality metrics, which is the most comprehensive index of errors in all the world. It has more than 90 different criteria of what kind of error has been made in translation. Needless to say, even though it's been made into a ISO standard, it has not been very practical for an enterprise at scale to say whether the translation is applicable or not. What is a fluency error when you are trying to launch, I don't know, 1,000 support pages? It's not super practical. So in the past few years, the metrics have switched from using either this error classification very much in depth or reference-based metrics, which were popular maybe 10 years ago, like BLEU scores, into using AI models. And this is why we're here today, that more and more we can see that people defer the human judgment or a comparison with the golden standard to AI. And they say, dear ChatGPT, dear Claude, is this translation good enough? And this has been building into more and more what is called an automated quality pipeline, which includes different guardrails. Is the punctuation in place? Did we translate into the right language? Do we have the right units of measure? The more sophisticated the pipeline, the better. Ultimately, we still defer to the judgment of AI to say if it's good or not. And you need this. If you are looking at an enterprise program, if you have, I don't know, 10 million words, 20 million words, 40 languages, there's no way to check all the content manually. So you need some way of automatically determining whether you can use it or not. Now, the jury is out there if you can trust the system or not. We look at the recent evaluations, and I think this year's conference on machine translation, European Association for Machine Translation, which was held in Tilburg just, I think, a month ago. It has highlighted many studies done specifically on the topic. Can you trust the AI judgment on machine translation? And the answer is surprisingly more and more so. The more sophisticated the pipeline, the better the evaluation. Then this is closer and closer to the judgment of the human experts. Eddie, if you remember, maybe if you were in the industry 20 years ago, we used to laugh at different hilarious human mistranslations of restaurant menus, signposts, all kinds of things when somebody who doesn't know the language well makes a translation because no one is better available at the moment. And then people would laugh all over the internet. Then maybe 15 years ago, we would laugh at hilarious mistranslations from machine translation. And especially it was true for enterprises launching this at scale. If you remember AliExpress launches in different countries, in the beginning, they had terrible machine translation. You couldn't really understand what the product was about. But these days, we don't have a lot to laugh about. I haven't seen a hilarious mistranslation posted or discussed on the internet for months. So I think AI is doing a pretty good job. The only problem is kind of uniform. Did you read my AI-generated email? No, right? So if you're seeing something which is AI-generated, clearly doesn't have any human voice, it's probably not fit for purpose. So this concludes my opening statements. I can see we're pushing into the next speaker. Can you trust AI translation quality with enough guardrails? And if you're not looking for human voice, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. I forgot the order. Who's next?
I'm happy to.
Did I impress you that much?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was lost in the concepts. Thank you. Marcin, please.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Again, excited to be here. So, as an engineering manager and former staff engineer, I give you like engineering perspective on the topic. And I work with different domains, right? Accessibility, localization, design systems. So I only came into the localization world about 2.5 years ago. So you get a hopefully fresh outsider's view on whether or not we can trust AI translation. And my core belief here is that trust is actually not a property of AI model. The trust comes from the system that you build around it. So if the question is simply, is AI good enough yet? Can I trust it? Then honestly, looking at the raw output alone at the enterprise scale, the answer is probably not. And yet at Miro, we actually took our pipeline from 72 hours per change down to like mere seconds. And we built an AI first pipeline with the idea that we call optimistic localization, where we like serve AI translation instantly to unblock the product development lifecycle. And then we reconcile everything asynchronously behind the scenes. But what makes this safe is the system around it, right? So we have automated checks and guidelines, what Konstantin also mentioned, from the moment we actually generate the prompt. And Konstantin mentioned about like human voice. So our language managers here are pivotal. Like they no longer on the blocking path, but they own the behavioral rules of the AI. Like they write the style guides, the examples, run experiments to prove that the change actually improves the output. And we automated the rest. So like the point is that like even the post edits, human edits are delivered automatically, engineer free, and only all that together gives us the confidence that we can run it at the enterprise scale. So we have engineers and linguists now working together, and well, to sum it up, the trust wasn't something that the AI alone gave us; it was something that we engineered. And yeah, excited to get into it today.
Marcin, we're going to agree on every contention point today. It's going to be a very complimentary discussion.
It will be for sure. Thank you, Konstantin, and thank you, Marcin, for your points. Andrew, last but not least, of course, let us know your position on this.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, great to be here. Yeah, I mean, like, I think the questions have been answered already in that it's not really like, do you trust AI translations. It's like, do you have the frameworks and guardrails and all the things in place where you can have the indications of quality and all the different steps along the way? And it's from kind of generating the first translation and making sure it's the best first translation you can generate, and then doing some assessment and repair and quality controls and making sure you have the right glossaries and style guides and style rules and things that apply to different, and maybe locale-based style rules and things that are organizationally important, as well as using existing translation memory that you have and feeding all of that in to kind of create the best first translation, as well as doing all the assessment. So I think like the whether you can trust AI translation, there has to be some degree of like, yes, this is some good indication that something is good enough quality to ship and publish to your website or whatever it might be. And really, when you're translating tens of millions of words or hundreds of millions of words, you have to have some level of trust in that something is going to pass the threshold to be okay to publish. And that's really where like taking having the agents and the quality assessment and all of the assets and things that an organization has and the tools available, and building the tools, like what Martin said, is that they maybe don't trust AI translation out of the box, but you build the tools and the foundation, the frameworks and things that lets you have that kind of trust and repair as needed going forward. So yeah, I think like at some sort of scale, you have to have some level of trust, kind of no matter what. But then you have the tools and the things in place to make corrections and make adjustments as needed. And it really does go from creating the translation to assessing the quality to delivering wherever that translation might end up. And AI and LLMs are a moving target. Every day there's a new model. Every day there's something different. So it's always kind of reassessing and re-benchmarking, and there is that human layer as well to do the benchmarking. And so you have an understanding of, is your quality shifting over time? Is the model shifting? Do you need to update a prompt? Do you need to have a new tool to fix all these different edge cases? So like, can you trust AI translation? I would say yes, but you have to have the right tools and frameworks in place to do so.
Thank you, Andrew. And of course, Marcin, you gave us an idea of what you did at Miro. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit more, when you're dealing with high volume, high speed, what are the things that we're breaking and continue to breaking when it comes to quality? And then if you're choosing, maybe you're choosing quality versus instant global reach, what are the decisions that you make? Where do you draw the line? And are you the one making those decisions? Who should be making those decisions?
Thanks, Eddie. Well, that's actually a packed question, right? With lots of angles here. And like the first answer here, I think might be actually counterintuitive for some, but it's the exceptions that break first. Because at the enterprise scale, unlikely is not really a useful word. Like what's rare in isolation, like AI hallucination or a human error, like at certain scale, it becomes certain that is going to happen, right? Like with millions of words translated a month, and with some companies it's a week or even daily, it's going to happen anyway. So you need to build the safety net around the whole process. And those right now need to be guardrails, not gates that everything has to stop and wait at, right? Like in our old, before AI translation pipeline at Miro, that translation could take up to 3 days. And that's simply not how modern software companies want to operate anymore. So AI gave us something that was not possible before, right? Like now you can embed localization by default into your product development lifecycle. And as an engineer, I see this a little bit different for the where the perfect quality versus the instant global reach is, because even with if the line, there is no single line in the company. Like it depends on the content, right? Like legal documents aren't help center articles, and you actually need building blocks. and that includes like self and human healing mechanisms. So like incorrect content is short-lived. For instance, you can accept that risk for a moment, and then you compose this process with your teams, your stakeholders, but the system needs to be flexible to support it, to enforce it, not to really make a call on its own.
Yeah, thank you, Marcin. And Andrew, of course, as Marcin mentioned, AI has given us something that we didn't have before. We are translating volumes that we didn't have before, and we're overwhelmed we're in the sea of it right now. And as this translation volume grows, well, processes have changed. Guardrails are not the same that they used to be. Processes struggle to keep pace. So what does a more scalable approach actually look like? And you did mention, hey, we need to have these processes, we have to have guardrails, we need to have these structures. What do they look like for someone working on this properly?
Yeah, do you know what? Like, I think it's interesting when we look across our client base and all of our customers. Like, they're all so different, and some are web companies, some are more regulated industries or life sciences or government influenced or something. And there is this mix of having the right framework and the right thresholds and the right trained mechanisms, whatever it is, or human in the loop, whatever it might be, depending on the content type and maybe the visibility and maybe whether there's legal implication or something like that. So I think the framework is really like adjust things to your content type and maybe visibility and maybe even like legal implications. And as we see our customers translating more and more and more, and like I think it was like up 218% or something year over year, just with the same set of customers. And they're really trying to understand how to understand that quality and how to set up those frameworks. So like we've introduced different tools around assessment and routing to humans and auditing and audit logs and all these different things to try to give clues and trends and things over time and catching those critical errors. So I really think it is like a mix and match type of situation for your organization, content type, shippability, publishing, and where you draw those thresholds. And of course, as we talk about, like, as everyone here probably knows, the three kind of pillars of localization has always been cost, quality, and speed, and there was always a trade-off there. And as speed is near instant, as Martin was saying, and cost continues to go down, quality is really that last pillar that has all of these questions around it. So setting up the right thresholds and having the right tools and assessment tools and trends over time and catching those critical errors, I think it's really kind of customer and content type dependent.
And of course, Konstantin, you were talking about history 20 years ago. I think I was coming out of high school. I was not aware you had to work to make money.
The bloody terrible history. Yes.
Yes. And you know, for some of us, maybe for some in the audience that might not be.
Do you know how
savvy.
many debates on this topic passed in such rooms? Yes, but please go ahead.
Yes. MQM, and maybe tell us a little bit about what does it actually stand for. But it's the standard for evaluating translation quality. But is this changing? Is this over? Is this no longer part of the structure?
Yes.
What have you observed?
I wish I could show you. This now would be a good moment to show how detailed this most detailed index of errors. And
let's come to an agreement. Explain it as if we were looking at it, and as we share it on social media, we're going to take this, those that are listening to the recording or watching this live, we're going to release it on social media, and we're going to put amazing graphics as you are explaining it to us. So please go ahead.
So anyway, the previous understanding of pronunciation quality was closer. What is the linguistic norm? Do we have the right accuracy, fluency? Do we adhere to the format, and so on? It was it is still very complex, and in practice, everybody simplifies to maybe 7 or 10 criteria of errors. In professional evaluations, when scientists compare large language models, now they're gravitating towards a simplified metric called error span annotation. So instead of finding from 100 issues that very few people can remember, they ask people just to highlight where the issue was specifically found, and maybe just to say if it's severe or not. So MQM was measuring too many things like addresses. But in practical scenarios, when it's an enterprise localization, when people build this automated quality pipelines, these days it's about simpler things. It's about something very practical. Did we translate into the right language? You wouldn't believe how many times in the past enterprises mistranslated. If they have 10 languages, 20 languages, instead of Korean, we'll put Japanese, and nobody would notice because it was 1,000 pages that got delivered, and maybe half of the page is delivered in the wrong language. There was a kind of a scandal a year ago, I think, on Japanese television. They used subtitles translated by Google Translate, and they gave a name for the island's disputed territory. They gave a name, I think, favored by China, which sparked national debate, and somebody got fired afterwards, right? So practical things. Do we follow the right language? Do we have the right terminology in place? Do we have the right units of measure? These simpler evaluation systems are replacing. We are digging very deep now into the evaluation, how to even compare the models, and the more of this unit of measure, practical stuff we can find, the better. Imagine a different error. A machine translation engine looks at 500 microvolt and just drops one symbol, micro, and you have 500 volt. So the device would be definitely fried. What if it's a prescription? Instead of 200 milligrams, 200 grams. If somebody follows the instructions literally and doesn't check, minor hallucination, once character removes, that could lead to very bad consequences. So MQM, because of its complexity and because there are other factors in play when a piece of content gets to the users, I think it's getting phased out step by step. It's still very much a good metric and a good reference point in professional conversations, but this simplified and more practical ways how to determine whether it's good are taken over.
And of course, we've had so many conversations here in localization today about, what's the point of something that looks perfect but does not connect culturally. So
we're becoming very practical, and we agree with our AI overlords. We can just say, ChatGPT, if this translation is good, give me a score from. They used to do it from 1 to 100, and it was called Gemba, another translation metric. Now they just say, tell me if it's good, yes or no. And this is now a simplified methodology how you prompt LLMs to get you a good answer. Does it suit my context? That's it.
Andrew, you want to say something about the methodology on quality?
Yeah, I was just thinking about all, and I've been at SmartLink for 16 years or something, and just over the course of time, and obviously translation going on forever, and people have been trying to figure out quality forever, and just the number of metrics and scores and different ways of evaluating things, it just continues and continues and continues. And we use MQM, and I know a lot of other people do, and probably simplified schemas in ways that, just because it is kind of a baseline that you can compare things to.
But Andrew, even in your company, you used to be such a big proponent of MQM, and now it's shippability.
There is shippability framework.
Yes or no?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And we have a lot of different things that that we're looking at to try to help customers understand that. And a customer who isn't doesn't know MQM and the framework, and you say, hey, this MQM framework score or whatever is a 97 or something, it kind of means nothing. And you get into it, and there's it's like going through the halls of like a castle or something to try to figure out what it actually means. But it does give you a sense of quality. But no doubt, like as new models come out and people invent different things, there'll be some new standards that are certainly simpler, and probably, as Konstantin just said, it will just be like, hey, LLM, is this good quality or not? Does it read for my users, whatever? So it's definitely going to get simplified.
And Andrew, as I have you here, how do we include humans in this conversation so that it's not like a mathematical equation, but is the human reviewer in it? How can we make sure we use it correctly in that workflow design?
Yeah, you know, we've seen, and as we've introduced new tools to kind of do quality assessment and things, like it's kind of reducing. There's still a place for humans, of course, and we use a lot of humans for benchmarking and seeing if things are still accurate and what we're saying is truthful and things like that, as far as how some of these different tools work. But there's certainly a way for humans to be involved. We see customers using this as like, maybe we're able to very accurately detect if there's like a critical, really big problem in a translation. So if it's kind of helping to reduce the amount of content maybe a human might have to review, because we have the confidence that this 90% of content is good to go, or there's maybe just minor errors that a human doesn't need to look at. And the human should focus on just the places where there are really critical errors, and those things need to be fixed. So I think there is still a place, not just in the benchmarking and testing and evaluation part, but there is still a place for humans, just helping them to focus a little bit better on the content that actually does need repair.
And of course, Marcin, you are a human. How do you of course you have quality frameworks. How do you do this internally? What do you have in place, and what are you thinking about to put in place? Are humans involved? How does it work for you?
Yeah, thanks. And I fully agree with you, with Konstantin, about the high stakes content, but we have lots of content types that's not high stake content, right? And there are maybe gonna be controversial here, but it's also a bit in line with Andrew, what you said about like the manual review is linear, right? So as you grow the scale, like you need to find something else. And what I would say here for this content that's not high stake, and that's mindset shift, like don't put human in the critical path. And what do you check there for, right? In the automated way, like if you put automation instead, because there are things that are easier than others, and functional correctness of the translation is quite deterministic. Like it's kind of a binary, like pass fail situation. Like do variables and placeholders stay consistent, are like all locals complete, and so on. And that's the layer where that could catch like hallucinated variable name, for instance, in the Llama output. And it can be a mix of like low-level code checks and AI checks. But there is also this linguistic quality that's way more subtle, and there are, you can use a mix of AI and human checks. And it also opens like different opportunities. Like you can post-process the Llama output automatically, or you can use LLM as a judge approach, like to score translations and put a real number and like whatever works for you to decide is it good enough.
You can use multiple LLM as a judge?
Well, that's a bit of an inception, and yes, that there must be a stop at some point. Like you can also just use a more powerful model if you will. And so, but the thing is, I think you only merge translations automatically once they clear the programmatic checks. So at Miro, we actually use AI translations without waiting for a human review. And that's the whole point of this optimistic localization I keep talking about. But for us, merging translation doesn't mean it's live straight away. Like release for us is a separate step, and we release like twice a day. So the string might get a review and get corrected before this ships, before users see the string. So, but at the same time, we don't count on that, and we don't wait for it. So even the incorrect one can go live, but then the async review caches it and fix goes out with the next release. So it's very short-lived. And the human review moved up a level and out of the critical path for us, right? So our language managers now focus on shaping the model output, on working with style guides examples, where the post edits are the input how to improve the whole learning loop of this process, and the review itself becomes a feedback loop alongside the pipeline, not a checkpoint inside it. So it's changing.
And thank you, Marcin. And of course, for those that came in late, because we had a little bit of a hiccup on LinkedIn, they might have not heard what we're doing today here. We are talking about trust in AI. Can we trust AI translation? So we're going to take this a little bit of, I don't know if you're watching the World Cup, but it's just a little bit of a hydration break, a little bit of a cooling break for everyone out there. If you're on LinkedIn, please tell us where you are tuning in from. What is your role and what company? What are you do? Where are you doing what you're doing? And do you currently trust AI? You can tell us more about that. And of course, we've had people from Portugal, we've had people from Massachusetts, a lot of fans. Konstantin and Marcin, Andrew, we have a lot of fans here, which is great. And we will keep our promise. The great insights that you're hearing on this conversation, you're also going to see them on social media. So you should follow Custom MT, you should follow Smarting, you should follow Miro, you should follow Multilingual Media, and we will be sharing this on social media. Chief Solutions Engineer here, and the person who makes problems go away. At least I hope that's the case. From Orlando, Florida, Multilingual Content Specialist. Hello, Maria. Who else do we have there? Shalom from Jerusalem, Chaya. We also have Benjamin, Hong Kong, localization project manager and content writer. Great. Thank you for sharing. Translator from Washington, D.C., Irina. Hello. Multilingual, greetings from Chicago. I did say Chicago, and I didn't think there was someone from Chicago. Hi there, freelance translator from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Also postdoc researcher. And as we are enjoying our hydration break, I actually prefer cooling break when they said cooling break, but not always is cooling break, right? Could just be hydration. You need your water. Argentina. Oh my God, Ceci.
To hydrate all together. We can do it in unison, right?
At the same time, hydration break. We can do a hydration break video. I'm always thinking about content that could perform well, and this gets me to my next question, because as you were speaking, I get reminded of a piece of feedback that one of the greatest salespersons that I've worked with gave me, which was activity drives results. Because sometimes you're in sales or you're doing an activity, you're doing translation, you're doing something, you're like, should we ship this? Why should we ship this? And then activity drives results. If you have no activity, there's no way you're going to get any result. So activity drives results, shippability, what we talked about. But then I was thinking, well, what's the job to be done here? Why are we doing these activities? What is the goal that you have? And I imagine this is very different from Miro. This is very different from the clients at SmartLink. This is very different for Custom MT and what you do. So I don't have a preference of who wants to answer this. So I'm just going to throw it there, and then whoever wants to take the hot potato can just grab it and answer.
What is the question, Eddie?
I think Andrew has an answer.
I was about to say, what was the question? I missed the question in there.
What do you see out there as the job to be done? What are companies looking to achieve with taking into translation and quality translation? Is it only about having something out there translated with a quality score of whatever the number is? What is behind that?
Yeah, our customers, and I was thinking about this as Martin was talking at Miro, and I was thinking Miro's a modern organization that has probably solid development pipelines and all these things to introduce localization, and probably has very specific metrics around what languages they should go in and where the business opportunities are and things like that. And so many of our customers are kind of maybe they aren't as modern, but they always have Like, are they getting qualified leads? Are they opening a new hotel in a new city? Are they having franchisees that they're trying to recruit? So it always does go back to some sort of business metric, and sometimes the translation and localization piece is a little bit disconnected from that. But behind the scenes, there's always that path to some sort of business metric or some sort of government requirement in some cases. So the job to be done is often, and we see that as far as like even how customers are deciding what to translate and when to translate, and even the quality levels that they have, or if an error is okay to get through. How important is it to the business to have this translation on a website or in a billboard or a magazine ad or whatever it might be? And can that kind of poor translation negatively affect the brand? So like we see a lot of that coming through from our customers in tying the translation and even the translation quality to their business metric. And when we look at like as content comes into the platform, we see if it's coming from like a website, and we know if it's on the homepage of something or it's a legal disclaimer, and we can kind of route content based on those content types and the different types of quality that a customer might expect for where the content might appear. And then there, of course, are those customers that maybe don't have as modern development pipelines and things like that, where humans are still in kind of the critical path. But eventually, over time, all of those will probably move to a more streamlined path. But eventually, it's all everything does go back to some sort of business metric, and tying the translation localization to that, and the quality of the translation is super important. We see that a lot from customers. I don't know if I answered that question.
Please.
Yes, I think what we're trying to achieve hasn't changed. As multilingual folks, we want to break down the language barrier. We want to make excellent products, knowledge, ideas available across different languages. We want to engage all the people in the world. And we used to do it in a manual way. Now we have to do it with automated tools. But when we use those automated tools, we want to have our unique voice, a unique way of communicating things, recognizable, tied to our brand, and preferably error-free. So the task, which was the task of translators 1,000 years ago, I don't know, 5,000 years ago, 20 years ago, hasn't changed. The tools have. Now we need to make it work.
Thank you, Konstantin. Marcin, I think your microphone is muted. I'm sure your microphone is muted. Or perhaps disconnected.
All right.
Sorry
about that. So I think I just want to quickly add on that, because that was a nice addition about the business case. And I think, of course, like around 20% of Miro users use Miro outside of English completely, but some markets are more like hermetic in that than others. And from the just pure business perspective, we would probably still decide what's the most important to translate and stick to it, right? Like we can't translate everything. So AI and the tools that gave an opportunity for some markets like Japan to go full in, and then we can even translate user-generated content for like templates, descriptions, and so on. Something that we would not simply be able to do without this technology, right? And that's cool.
That is really good. Of course, Konstantin, whether we're using the right tool or not, I think we're looking for good content that is well received. From your perspective, what you're observing, what separates teams that are measuring quality well, or are using the right structures, from those that are definitely not using the right tools and even using the tools correctly?
Well, if we're talking about large businesses, then one, it's robust operations that you rigorously carry out the tests across all languages and types of content, that you have a methodology that you adhere to, and this is a reasonable methodology. As we discussed earlier, there's more than 100 metrics. Which one's yours? Which applies to you? How do you customize? So operations is one, and rigorously continuing to check. Second is a feedback loop, right? What if you detect that the quality is bad? How do you fix it? Do you have a way of quickly introducing the fix, making sure that the system doesn't make the same error twice, and when you apply the fix, that you don't create new problems. If you retrain the model, one error disappears, but so with the heads of the Hydra, a few other problems might appear, right? So you need to have a very strong feedback loop to make sure that once you fixed, the fix stays. And I think that's about it, right? So maybe a final factor is behavioral metrics, right? That your quality program and your AI checking doesn't exist in a vacuum, but it's tied to the needs of the users, that you're seeing actually that your quality has an impact on the business, that they are engaging more, they're reading better, the reading time is faster maybe, that people read across different languages the same time on the same page. So having this feeling of impact tracked in some way, it's a third good component of your AI quality pipeline.
Thank you, Konstantin. And I have to say that time flies when you're having fun. Marcin, it sounds like you wanted to say something. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
Super quick. So I think
Yes,
because that's what Konstantin said about, like, this is not a one-time thing, right? Like, it's a continuous process to tweak and work on. And that's why, like, I think it actually redefined the job for our language managers who now own those behavioral rules of AI and can act fast and iterate. And that's actually making the job also more interesting, not less.
Yes. And I'll have one more question. I forgot to mention to our audience that please, if you have any questions to our panelists, please put it out there. If you have a specific question for someone, please mention their name and put it there. We're getting to the end of our conversation because time flies when you're having fun. And I will let our great panelists as well to start thinking about your closing remarks and what you have to tell our wonderful audience. But before we do all of that, I want to come back to something that you briefly mentioned, Marcin, Konstantin, and Andrew as well, related to high stakes content. And I think we've had a wonderful panelists in localization today, and it's very clear that there is content that just doesn't need to be reviewed even. It's just traditionally been the same content over and over again, and we've been paying people to translate it over and over again millions of times, which is of course a waste of human resources and technological resources and financial resources. But then there are other types of content that continue to evolve, new types of content that continue to appear. What are those high stakes type of contents look like for someone like you, Marcin, at Miro? What do you see, Andrew, and Konstantin? What do you also observe? If we can follow that, it will give us a lot of perspective on what high stakes content looks like for you in your specific contexts.
Well, actually, I think only some legal content can be that high stake that it can't take an error in the process, right? Because I think it's more important to be flexible as you develop your solution, because every company, every organization will have actually different type of content, right? And some content can ship on its own, some content will go live instantly and can be corrected shortly after, and that's still fine if it's short-lived. And some content will need really human review before it ships full stop. So your system needs to be flexible enough to support that, and then it can truly serve your organization.
Thank you, Marcin. Andrew, if you have something to add there.
Yeah, I think and really, yeah, high stakes means different things to different people. And of course, legal content and regulated content and things like that. I think even as we see customers, if they're translating into Chinese for the Chinese market, there are certain words and phrases that you can't use in marketing efforts, and even if it's on the 100th page that very few people visit, it could still mean a fine or a problem for them. So even if it's not the most visible of content, it can still be high stakes if you're translating it incorrectly. And I think you don't want to miss something where you could have an opportunity to fix it. So for example, even if help content, maybe it's a deep page on your help center, I'm thinking about Miro, for example, there's probably certain terminology and things that certain phrases and words that they want to use that could be translated in probably a lot of different ways, but they have very specific terminology, and we see this across our customer base. So even if it's not the most high stakes, you still want it to be accurate according to your brand and your terminology and things like that. So all of that I think is really important. And then there is the part that is it may not be super high stakes, but you still want, it's high stakes enough where you don't want it to completely be a super poor translation and doesn't meet what your brand and your terminology and things are intending. And then there is the really high stakes content that can dissuade someone from buying your product or service, or can result in a fine, or has legal consequences or something like that. So yeah, it really is across the spectrum.
Thank you, Andrew.
I could add here,
yeah.
Human life and health, super duper important, right? You want some checks and clear traceability. Political. What if we get to the same mistake that translators of Khrushchev did, right? We will bury you on a mistranslation, right? And one area where people are specifically allergic to AI content is creative production. Imagine your next Disney movie on Christmas for your kids, fully AI translated. The thing can do it. Do you want that? So people can get very, very sensitive to being fed entertainment content, which has a robotic feeling to it. In any case, I think everybody using AI translation should adopt the practice of labeling it as such. In Europe, in China, in Korea, and India, I think there are, and I think California, there are laws in place to label content text which is AI generated. So if you have no human review and you have a translation done by an agentic chain or by a chatbot, you probably want to label it as such, translated by AI, ChatGPT, or Claude, whichever you prefer. Even if you're presented in countries where this is not mandatory, I think it's just good practice just to separate human work from model work, which will be more uniform across different organizations and brands. And when I see the next Disney movie for Christmas with my kids, I want to make sure that it was human made with the depth of emotion translated through a human medium.
Thank you for sharing that. I'll keep that in mind also as I watch movies with my kids. I also like those emotions. Of course, for those that, I think you can still add Marcin for sure.
I mean, it's I think one last thing, because a lot of people see it AI translations versus human translation, which one is better, and I see it actually as the hybrid that works best. Like even the last example, because human can make mistakes as well, right? And then the AI can catch it in addition to the human translation. And we had the example like last week where we had the AI that passed the checks, then we had the post-edit review, and for language, it was the do something instead of don't. And because the post-edits go through the same AI checks pipeline and so on, that was flagged by AI that, hey, in this language it's probably wrong. So altogether, it really is a good symbiosis for a lot of cases. So I think that could be my end statement, that we shouldn't be afraid, we should make it work together.
Fantastic. And I know you might also have many other activities after this. We're coming to an end of our conversation. We have some questions for the audience, and I'd like to take some time to look into those. Juliet has a question for Andrew. This, of course, before our closing statements. Marcin already gave a little bit of that. I'll probably ask him to say the same with different words while he has his hydration break. For Andrew, responsible AI project manager here. Juliet says, AI often involves balancing measurable metrics with human judgment. Have you found that becoming more difficult as models improve?
We benchmark. We have a system that we use, that we built, and we do 2 run passes every month where we kind of benchmark across, I think, like 26 or 32 languages, kind of the same set of content. So we're always looking to see how models and different things change. I think, like, as we've from 3 and AI and all, it's all a moving target and it changes every day. And I think that we've seen the quality really improve over time, but we continue to do the benchmarking across all of these different models. So like, I think like the strategy and the frameworks and the tools and the necessary you have to do it, you have to do this modeling, you have to do this benchmarking and understand what's happening. So I don't know if that's gotten more difficult, but I think that the result is that we see better results. And I like that they're a responsible AI user
manager.
it's something we think a lot about, and we don't want to introduce unnecessary risk to our customers.
Wonderful, and I hope we are all responsible professionals in this world. There's a question I'd really like. I'm gonna direct it to Konstantin. Ernest, and my question is for all of you, but because of time, I'm gonna direct it to Konstantin. I want to pick your brain on this. She says, how do you identify and eliminate AI hallucinations from translation? I really want your brain to work on this.
You don't completely do it, but you can build a system with multiple levels of checks, multiple AI judges, guardrails. So this is an engineering problem, and many engineers who will solve it for you.
Wonderful. And there's a conversation.
It's a short answer.
Thank you. You can expand later if you want, of course. The next question is from Marek for Marcin. And is your pipeline dedicated mostly to strings/software localization, or also for critical legally content as well?
But the pipeline can be the same, like I explained. It's just the steps in the pipeline would be different for different content type, right? And for the legal, before the human review in as a separate step. So it's like building. It should be ideally building blocks that you can compose together for different content types in your company, and not every stakeholder will want to use all of them. Some won't use all of them as a judge, so we'll use a human review instead, and some will, and so on and so on.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question for Andrew. I know time's up, so for those that have to go to different meetings, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know, Marcin, Konstantin, Andrew, if you can stay just a couple more minutes before we go. Following up on Andrew's comment on compliance check for high-stake content, how can companies mobilize AI capacity to conduct checks beyond the language itself, such as cultural fit check?
Yeah, we've introduced something that we call style rules for AI, and it's something where it's kind of like like linguists. Organizations have always created style guides, and they've always been intended for humans, and it has a lot of those linguistic preferences and regional preferences and things like that. And we've introduced something we call style rules for AI, which kind of takes that same type of style guide, but it's intended for AI and intended for LLMs, and we can influence the outcome. And I say influence because it's always like influencing the outcome rather than a sure thing of what you're going to get. But we've seen pretty good success with that, and it's super interesting. As we used to talk about translating from Portuguese Portugal to Portuguese Brazil, or Canadian French to French or something. But you can really have LLMs do a lot more focused regional variants and kind of get that nuance that you weren't able to before. But there's certainly the point of influencing something with the rules and things that guide your organization for your style and tone.
Wonderful. Thank you, all of you, so much for joining us today. Before we go, any final thoughts? Marcin, I know you share some thoughts already. I don't know if you want to go first, just to give some closure to these wonderful conversations we've had. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm super happy and excited to be here. Thank you. And I think like the final thought would be to we don't have to pick one. Like we can try to use it for new use cases and make it work better than before.
Fantastic. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know what my final thought would be. I guess like it's super exciting to kind of be in the market at this time, and like the conversation we had today will probably be completely different in 6 months. So looking forward to seeing what that will be as all these models and LLMs and things change, and I think just keeping up with the quality conversation and can it be trusted and right frameworks and guardrails, as we all talked about, is really important, something that we all are thinking about.
And we'll come back in 6 months and see how the conversation is going. Yeah. We'll invite you back here. Konstantin, my friend, thank you so much.
I get the last laugh. Oh, fantastic. My takeaway is trust but check, to quote a classic. It's good enough, use it, make the content multilingual, make your ideas, thoughts, pages, materials available to people all around the world. But to stand out and to make sure that you do have a high quality translation coming out of AI, you want to work with localization people. The task of localization engineers is to make sure you eliminate those hallucinations, put as many checks in place, and you track that it does really stick with the users, that you have a unique voice. To stand out, you still need some smart folks to work on your AI.
All right. Thank you, Konstantin. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, everyone who has taken time to join us today in this wonderful panel on AI. Many different people from different organizations, San Francisco, California, project manager at Apple. We have people from Portugal, which we mentioned, Brazil. Thank you for those that have enjoyed the panel. And of course, you will be able to see the recording on LinkedIn, also YouTube, and you will see the different snippets and shorts from this conversation on social media. So make sure you subscribe to Localization today. You follow Miro, SmartLink, Custom MT, and Multilingual Media, so you see all of this. Thank you again, everyone who has joined us today's conversation. Remind us that AI translation is no longer a technology question alone. It is becoming an organizational question. The challenge is not simply whether AI can produce multilingual content, it is whether enterprises can create the systems, processes, and safeguards necessary to trust that content when it reaches customers. Trust doesn't emerge automatically from a model. It is built through measurement, governance, human judgment, and a clear understanding of risk. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their perspectives, their experiences, and thank you, SmartLink, for supporting this wonderful discussion. And of course, thank you again, everyone who joined us today. We appreciate you being part of Localization today and our community. We look forward to continuing the conversation with you in future events. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, again, be sure to follow Localization today for more interviews, panels, and discussions with the people shaping the future of localization, language technology, and global communication. See you all next time. Goodbye.